I'd like to start this video off with a message from the Michigan defensive line. 2 words. Good luck. Anyway, today we will be talking about that huge commitment Michigan received yesterday and who might be next. Plus, Michigan just made a very quiet but very sneaky good move on the staff. I'll tell you all about it. And of course,
I'm upset. No disrespect, respectfully. But disrespectfully, it's disrespect. Don't be disrespectful. Those vile, disgusting Spartans. Poor little bro, man. And I'ma tell him why I'm mad. That vile, disgusting cesspool in Columbus. The other state. And of course, as always, I'm upset.
Have you ever asked yourself, why am I paying so much for cell phone service? I'm sure you have. I know I have. And I have a solution for you in the form of Mint Mobile. Use the description in the video here. Check out Mint Mobile's plans. You can get unlimited service for as low as $15 a month. That is not a gimmick. Trust me. Stay angry. First things first, Lou Esposito. You know what? Let's save that. First things first, Michigan picks up a massive, and I mean huge, commitment yesterday from 4-star defensive lineman Nate Marshall. This was so needed in every way. First of all, Michigan hadn't gotten a commitment in 4 months. Let's start there. Secondly, it is Lou Esposito introducing himself to the nation, to the Big Ten, to all other college football recruiters, especially along the defensive line, him saying, "Hi, my name is," in the words of the great 21st century poet, Marshall Mathers. Beyond that, this is a huge get for Michigan because Marshall has a relationship with fellow defensive line edge rusher that Michigan highly covets, Jalen Williams, who has an on-again, off-again relationship with Michigan due to coaching changes. But with Lou Esposito, stamping his mark here, I think that's a good thing. We saw Williams, after the Marshall commitment, tweet out, "What's the word?" with the picture of the two on a recruiting visit. We can't talk about, before I go any further, I gotta introduce my guy. Rick, go and get you some.
I'm the best there is. Woo! Woo! Woo!
Now that Rick has had his fun, Marshall represents a top 40 recruit, not just top 100, a top 40 recruit, a guy right on the cusp of being a 5-star recruit. What Michigan gets in this commitment from Marshall is a 6'5", 275-pound wrecking ball out of Oak Park, Illinois. Marshall also becomes the first commit in the Sherrone Moore era. That is, since Sherrone Moore officially took over the reins as Michigan head football coach, this is the first commit that he's had in that span. And it looks like it's going to start a cascade of other commits. At least things are ramping up on the recruiting trail from the Wolverines, and we'll get into that a little bit. But first, we got to let my guy Rick exalt one more time.
Woo! I'm the best there is. Woo! 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 Woo!
Marshall chose the Wolverines over schools, in-state school, Illinois, over Alabama, over Miami, over Notre Dame, and others. He officially shut down his recruitment, which is a great sign, right? He had official visits scheduled to at least 3 of those schools, and he has shut that down. That is unbelievable and very important. Plus, like I was saying, he is very talented. You saw the tape. We understand what he can do on the football field. He also lines up out wide for his high school team. So he's very athletic, very good with his hands. And Michigan jumped into the top 20 in the recruiting rankings just with the commitment of Marshall. We'll keep you posted on this as more information becomes available. Before we hop into who I think could commit to the Wolverines next, let's first get into this move that head coach Jerome Moore and the Michigan Wolverines made. They just hired James Brown, JB Brown, for those who don't know. And for those who still don't know, JB Brown was the director of high school relations for SMU. JB Brown has a ton of experience with high schoolers in the state of Texas. Texas, as we all know, is the number one state in all of America in terms of high school talent. He coached in the Dallas and Houston areas. He was a head coach in those areas for upwards of 20 years before joining the staff. He was actually a member of Jim Harbaugh's staff at one point at Michigan. He is now back at the University of Michigan in A2 for a second time. Right now, he is listed as an analyst, but trust me, this can only mean good things for the Wolverines, especially in the state of Texas. Michigan has heightened interest in the state of Texas, including wide receiver Taz Williams. There are other players in addition to Williams. There are transfer players, right, that he could impact because of his knowledge of them and their game and his communication with them. So this is a very sneaky, quiet, great hire by the Wolverines. I have to say, in the weeks preceding Jim Harbaugh's exit to go to the NFL, things were looking a little shaky for Michigan in terms of the coaching staff. Of course, there was the on again, off again with the DB coach Steve Klinkscale. Then there was the MIA, missing persons report out for former running backs coach and Michigan legend Mike Hart. Ultimately, for both of them to leave the program, but the hires that Jerome Moore has made, not just to replace them, but also to replace Mike Elston. Also, the hires from within, the Grant Newsome to offensive line coach, the Kurt Campbell from quarterback coach to offensive coordinator. These are all excellent moves made by Jerome Moore, and so far he is off to a tremendous start, and that is aside from the recruiting, of course, but even that, right, is trending upwards in a sort of bull market sort of way. So only good things from here on out for the Wolverines, I'm expecting. And this James Brown hire, is right there near the top of the best moves that Jerome Moore has made this offseason. Keep it locked for more information. Finally, let's get into who we think may be next to commit. Now, the number one prospect or recruit on the list that would possibly be next to commit, according to an insider that I spoke to, is offensive lineman Avery Gatt. She's an in-state recruit, 4-star recruit. I've talked about him to nauseum here on the channel. He's an absolute monster, as you see on the video. He blocks until that final whistle. He had 90 some odd pancakes. He's an absolute beast and a freak of nature, and would just add to that depth and the tradition along the offensive line for the Wolverines, especially in the time that Jerome Moore has been there, whether it be as the offensive coordinator, offensive line coach, or just the offensive line coach. He has produced and has maintained and built and trained, molded these offensive linemen in that time to be dominant. Back-to-back Joe Moore Award winning. Last year they were semifinalists for the Joe Moore Award. He's got All-Americans littered on that offensive line, so you get the gist. So Avery Gatt would be at the top of the heap, but for me, I think it could be running back Marquise Davis, who will be making his third trip to Ann Arbor since Tony Alford has been there. And I don't know if it's today or later this week, he'll be visiting again. So he is clearly interested in Michigan. Tony Alford has clearly done a great job in recruiting him. He is an Ohio kid out of the Cleveland area. He was being recruited by Alford before Alford made the change to come to the good guys at Michigan. So they obviously have some rapport. They have a relationship, and it is paying dividends in terms of his frequency to A2. And I think eventually that's going to turn into a commitment from Marquise Davis. In addition to Davis, I spoke a little bit about Jalen Williams. Now, maybe he's not close to a commitment at this point. However, being surrounding the excitement of Nate Marshall committing, the fact that Jalen Williams was very interested in Michigan on separate occasions, right? 2 separate occasions with different defensive line coaches. If Lou Esposito is able to establish that relationship with Jalen Williams, I can see that happening sooner rather than later as well. But there is another running back out of Gaithersburg, Maryland, 4-star running back Iverson Howard, that I think could also commit fairly soon. He has been high on the Wolverines since day one. I spoke a little bit about him in the last video. He is absolutely a candidate to commit to the Wolverines very soon. Let me know in the comment section if I'm missing somebody that you guys think could commit sooner. Let's talk about it in the comment section. Also, talk to me about what you think about the hire of James Brown. What do you think about Nate Marshall committing, top 40 recruit, the first Sharon Moore era recruit to commit to the Wolverines? And as always, stay angry, my friends. I'm upset.
Ladies and gentlemen, this might be our best season ever. My ratings are about to go to the roof.
All right, now I'm gonna calm down. So I'm gonna calm down, son. I just don't get that all that Maize and that lock and all that puff. I just don't get it, son,
Okay,
for real.
just calm
And how the